Excellent. So welcome everybody. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a presentation that I have that explains the program. It is something that, from what I hear from you, can be a good fit for any of you. So if you are just thinking about an idea now, and this will give you food for thought that you can use afterwards when you're ready. If you are just looking maybe to join a team to learn about entrepreneurship, we have that option as well. And some people here have already formed teams and ideas and submitted applications. So I'm going to explain the process that we go through here. So I'm just going to share a screen. Okay. Let me go. All right. So Penn is a program that I run. Is a program that's sponsored by the National Science Foundation. It was started in 2010 with the idea of promoting economic development that come out of investments that the government makes in research. So, NSF and other research foundations provide funding for research, and they were looking for ways to incentivize moving that research that was funded by the government into the marketplace. So this was a program developed for that purpose, and it actually helps with all kinds of technologies, not just research technologies, but our mandate is to work especially with STEM research ideas. We started this in 2015. We have almost 200 teams that went through the process. Of those 200 teams, 50 were funded, and they raised about $141 million. I have to say one thing is that a statistic that we're going to see why that is later, 90% of the companies that are startups fail, and the reason they fail is something I'm going to tell you later, but something we're trying to avoid. So these numbers are kind of the kind of numbers you would expect. They're a little bit higher because we have 50 companies that are still ongoing, but the 141 million is basically from 3 or 4 of these 200 companies. So because those are the ones that succeeded. Here are some examples of these companies. The first one is called Interbase. It's a company that was developed by a faculty member and a PhD student in bioengineering, and they're working with creating new connections in the brain from tissue that has been damaged. So that is a potential treatment for Parkinson's disease or Alzheimer's. And they started a company. They have the technology is being proven. They raise funds. They're doing clinical trials at this stage. The second company is from an undergraduate. So Catherine developed a sensor that is able to identify certain gases, and her application is to use that to determine when fruit is ready to be taken out from the warehouses. So I didn't know this, but fruit is stored in warehouses, airtight environments, and if you want to check if fruit is ready to be shipped, you have to open the warehouse, open the door, and as soon as you do that, it's a one-way street. So if you open it too early, then the fruit's never going to make it. If you open it too late, then it's going to waste. So it's a kind of problem how to figure out when to do that. So she's developed a company. She's raised, I think, about $10 million now. She's very well established. You can find her on the internet. And Neuroflow is also a very successful company started by a Wharton MBA student and a PhD student in the School of Engineering. They were working with technology to help determine if somebody's. So the idea they wanted to see if somebody is having PTSD while they're talking to a therapist and trying to measure that through biometric sensors. So they had something you could put on somebody's head. The band would detect brain activity. That didn't work, but eventually they turned this company into a company that provides mental health services to other companies. They've also done very well, raised about $60 million. And the other ones are robotics. Another Sonora is a team of undergraduates that develop some technology to help babies in the NICU, the neonatal and intensive care unit. So there's a range. We have life sciences, we have physical sciences, we have things in between. And the one thing that distinguishes the program is that it works for all these types of technology. And you might wonder how can this happen? How can you have somebody who's developing a biosensor and somebody who's developing a robot? And the reason is because we're not focusing on technology, we're not focusing on the actual science, but we're focusing on how you turn this into a potential company. And the programs are all the same. So who's a customer and what value you bring to the table. The reason that most companies fail, the number one reason is that there's no market need. So basically, I'm building something that nobody wants, and it sounds stupid, and that's really what happens most of the time. And it's not just small things. There's like $1 billion have been invested in ideas that really didn't have a market. And the reason for that is that one becomes convinced that our technology is great and that there's a market, and that the way to do it is to develop the product and then raise funds and develop the infrastructure and then market it. And if you market, so it might be 5 years that you go through this process, and then you only know if this is going to work at the end of this process. And if it doesn't work, it's pretty bad. And if it works, it's a miracle. So we're trying to avoid that. We're trying to avoid falling into this trap. And I myself fell in this trap. I started 3 companies. One was successful, but the other 2 were terrible failures. And the main reason was that I thought this was a technology that people needed, and they needed something different. And I know now this process, I think I don't know if I would have succeeded, but at least I would have found out very fast that it wasn't working, and that would enable me to change directions, i.e. to pivot. Any questions? I think I mentioned this a little before, but here's our key focus. Who is the customer? So if you're developing a product for somebody, there's somebody who's going to buy it. Who is that person? Somebody who's going to buy it or use it. In some cases, the buyer and the user are the same. In some cases, they're not. But who is actually the person who's going to buy it? Who's going to be the person who's going to use it? And do they have the problem that I think they have? And is this problem important or not? And the third question is, do I bring any value? So if I identify who my customer is, what problem they're facing, then do I bring any value? So for example, I assume for the iodine, the problem is women get pregnant right after pregnancy, right after finishing a pregnancy, and it's unwanted, and it's very difficult to place IUDs at that stage. I think that's the case, but if it's not the case, I'm sorry, but that's what I thought I understood. So the customer there is both the patient and also the physician who's taking care of the person who just gave birth and providing kind of advice on how to move forward. Is the problem really important? That's for you to find out. How many people actually have this issue, and if you can bring value to this with the solution that you have. So this is what we're trying to figure out. And what this chart shows is on the left, here's the team that came in with the technology. So one of you mentioned the piezoelectric sensor. So here's not a piezoelectric sensor. Here's a microfluidic technology that enables precise control over size, shape, and composition and other properties of materials. For those so I didn't know what microfluidic was. Basically, there are little channels or little droplets can go through, and you can create chemical reactions and actually manufacture drugs like that, like the mRNA vaccine. So that's a technology, but that's not a business. So Sagar, who's the PhD student that came in with this technology, went through our program, and he had some ideas. It might be useful for in chemical plants to make some compounds. It might be useful in research, and eventually, through our program, he determined that the actual application was pharmaceutical companies that are developing drugs, and they want to manufacture, actually developing and manufacturing drugs. And that there was a specific requirement that if he managed to accomplish that, it would be valuable for these companies. And the threshold was if you can produce more than 1 kilogram per hour, then that would be something that these companies would be interested in. So it started with a technology and ended up the program with a potential application and validation from the customer base. So that's the focus of our program right here. We work with something called the Business Model Canvas, and I'm just gonna briefly mention it. Some of you might be familiar with it. It's used to rapidly and succinctly depict the main elements of a business model. And there's 9 boxes here. The idea is you really work with stick-it notes. You put in there, these are the things that we think each should be in here, and then you go and test them out, figure out if they're correct. So this covers revenue, cost, partners. Our focus is on the 2 blue boxes. It's called customer segments. So who are the customers and what problem do they have? And the other box is called value proposition, which is what is the value that we bring to the table. So and if there's a connection between the 2, that's great. It's called product market fit. This is the focus of our program here. There's other programs that are follow-on programs that go on and deal with the rest of this. But if you don't have product market fit, you don't have a business. So it's a necessary condition. It's not sufficient because maybe you have fit, but the cost is too high, to enable a product to be marketed. But it is necessary. So we have to figure out that. That's our focus in the Penn ICO program. And the way we do this is by helping you answer these questions, like who's the customer, what problem you're facing, making that clear, and then going out and talking to 20 customers. So interview. And that's what we teach you here. That's the distinctive quality of the ICO program. It focuses on getting information from the market directly from the customers. And through this interviewing process, you would get to understand what the customers need, if your problem is actually of importance to them. You will also learn to understand how the ecosystem works, because nothing works in a void. There's, as I mentioned, physicians, patients, hospital administrators. In agriculture, there's a bunch of other people. So it's an ecosystem. And going through this will help you understand not just your specific customers, but the ecosystem in which you work. And that's what we do in the regional program, which is called the program that I'm running out of Penn here. And here is how the workshop works. So this is a short program. It consists of 2 face-to-face sessions. So in person, but the first one is virtual, so everybody has to be there at the same time. It's 4 hours long, and the last one is actually physically in person. They're both 4 hours long. These are the 2 sessions in which everybody gets together. We usually work with about 10 teams at a time. And in the first session, folks come in having watched a series of videos that provide kind of it's like lectures, because we do not lecture during the sessions. We basically mainly guide you in terms of doing a workshop, doing hands-on work to to get you. So the first day we're trying to get you to clearly articulate who the customer is and what problem you think they have, and how you're going to find out if they have it. So how you're going to structure an interview. And then at the end of the program, the teams report on their learnings, what they learned through the interviews. The role of the instructors is me and Elizabeth Mashari, who does this program for the NIH as well. Our task is to help you understand the information that you received, that you found out, and guide you in terms of what to do next. We never emit an opinion as to this is a good idea or a bad idea. That's not our task. Our task is to give you tools that you can use to determine that yourself. So, first session, we describe the tools and we help you get moving. Then you conduct these 20 interviews, and then you report at the end. In between, we hold office hours with each team separately to help see how the process is going. Are the interviews going well? Are you having trouble understanding? Are you having trouble finding people? How can we help you analyze what you just learned? What you should do next? So that's the task of the office hours. We also have a panel that's synchronous, so it's actually in person. But it's an hour panel in where we bring venture capitalists. Sometimes we bring lawyers involved with startups, and it's an opportunity for you to meet individuals that work in the startup ecosystem and bring value to the table. It's not an opportunity for you to raise money. It's an opportunity to establish a connection and ask questions. We also have a program at the end of the year with PCI. So I work for the Penn Center for Innovation, aka PCI, that is responsible for managing the intellectual property of the university. So all the patents go through us. We have created companies out of that. We license the technology out to other companies. And at the end of the year, we run a program called Celebration of Innovation, in which we basically celebrate the innovations that made an impact this year. It brings a lot of attention. A lot of people come to that. We give out prizes. And the ICOR teams have an opportunity to bring posters to that event and be there to answer questions, to get to know people. So it's not on the slide, but that's something that happens at the end of December. Let me see. I think I explained, this is the same graphic. It says there's two main sessions. The first one, we develop the concept. The last one is the outcomes. And in between, there's 20 interviews. Now, 20 interviews might sound easy. It is not. It's hard. It's time intensive. And one of the most intensive aspects of it is finding people that would talk with you. And this is hard. It's hard, A, because it's hard, but B, it's because we don't do that in universities and we don't teach that, and people are not used to doing that. So it requires time. Time's an effort, and I encourage every team that is accepted into the program to come into the program with already a list of people to interview, so you don't have to waste time, because there's 4 weeks in between the two, and it's a short amount of time. So a team is 2 members, a minimum. You can have more. We don't want more than 3 in the program, because it just becomes unmanageable to have so many people at the same time. So if you have a larger team, we can talk about it, how to handle that, yeah, but we do prefer at most 3 people. There's an application process which is submit. We extended it through October 1st, so there's still time to submit an application. And then you do the interviews, and then we interview each team before accepting them into the program to ensure that we all know what we're going to be doing here. And then you can apply. There's really three ways in which you can apply. You can apply with an idea, or you can apply without an idea, and you're looking to join the team. You can apply with an idea without a complete team. And what we do is, okay, sorry, I wanted to say. What we do is we will create this. Like we have two sheets, one with teams that are looking for members, and the other one with people that are looking to join teams. And with that list, those two lists, we send them to the people involved here so that they can see if there's a match. And we also actively, with myself and the other members of our program, we look to see if there's potential synergy between a team and an individual, and we create the match. So we're in a sense, we're matchmakers. I want to mention this because it's happening tomorrow. So the School of Engineering hosts a series of speaker events that are actually put together by the Penn Center for Innovation on commercializing technologies. And what we have tomorrow is a lawyer who's going to talk about AI and intellectual property. So how the two things go hand in hand. He's a partner of a very well-known intellectual property firm. I'm going to be there. It's tomorrow from 12 to 1 in town 225. So if you probably received an email from Sammy about this. So that's a place that you might want to go if you're interested in that. And I'm going to be there as well. I didn't tell a lot about my background, but before I do that, I neglected to do something very important. I neglected to introduce Sam. So Sammy, do you have a chance to turn on your camera?
Yeah. Oops. All right. So hi, everyone. I'm Sammy. I am the teaching assistant for the I-Core program for this school year. And I'm happy to meet all of you and see how I can better help you succeed in this program.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Sammy. So if you want more information or get in touch with me, you can email me directly or Sammy. I think you should all have our email because you emailed them to confirm attendance. But we can also put it here. So that's the program in a nutshell. Do you have any questions?
Yes, Thomas. Do you prefer to have more than one member per team, or could it just be one person representing like my engineering team and not have any of them on the project?
That's a very good question. We do require two people attending both sessions, and the same two people. So you would have to come yourself and somebody from your team as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Tomas, if I can follow up, because I'm on a team where somebody has a conference on November 9th, 3rd rather, I think. So when you say the same two people for both sessions, you mean the two in-person sessions?
Yes.
Versus?
Yes.
Oh. Okay,
Yeah.
and then the second.
So you said November 3rd?
Well, you have a panel that's 1 hour, if I understand correctly. But I know that one of our team members has a conference, for example, but I think we're thinking they'd be otherwise like in the final session. So what are the exact sessions the same group of people have to attend?
Right. So the first one and the last one.
Okay.
And then the office hours as well. Now, I put dates on the office hours that's just to give you an idea. They happen during those weeks. We set the dates with each team separately. So whatever works for everyone.
I was going to piggyback and ask if for the office sessions, can anyone sort of join remotely by conference phone or anything? Again, because I'm on a team where some people are sometimes located in different states even. There's a lot of travel happening.
Okay. Yeah, actually the office hours have been fully remote so far.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I have a question. Can you hear me? Or is it too loud?
A lot of background noise, yeah. Are you writing? Okay. Any other question for while Marina writes? How does ICON come into place once the interviews are complete? That's a great question. What do you do with this? So you did your 20 interviews and you found out that there's interest. What do you do next? If you find out that it doesn't work, then you know that you're not going to pursue that or maybe change. If it does work, so there's a number of follow-on programs. For example, there's something called the National ICOR program, which covers all the 9 elements of that graphic that I showed before, the business model canvas. It provides funding. It's much more intense. It provides funding. It requires 100 interviews, and you end up with a much robust idea of what your business model is going to be. Every one of these programs helps you solidify your business model so that you can start growing your company. So a traditional path would be do this program, then do the national program. That program in turn enables you to have higher chances of getting you an SBIR award. An SBIR award is a government funding for small businesses that distinguishes itself because by being non-dilutive. So you're not giving up any equity in exchange for that. The other thing people do with the product of this program is it enables you to apply to other competitions, other programs that have conditions. So if it's hard to apply, it's hard to get accepted to Y Combinator, for example. If you have this 20 interviews under your belt, then you have something that fewer others have, which is some evidence that you have something that's worth putting more resources into. So it basically puts you in a very good position to get going, to move forward. It also, I have to say, it helps you figure out if your team works well as a team, because it is an intensive program and it requires a contribution by everybody in the team, and team dynamics are something very important and they're very hard to assess. So going through this process gives you a sense, an opportunity to see if you can work well with your teammates. I hope that answers the questions. My question is more, how is Ontario? So why do you need ICO to? I went through all of this. Well, how would you do an interview? Do you know what to ask? You don't have to answer because I can't hear anything. But so it's hard to figure out what to ask and how to ask. So we guide you through a process. Once you can articulate clearly who your customer is. By customer, I mean specific people, individuals. And once you identify what the problem is, then we teach you how to conduct the interview, because you want to do the interview in a way that provides you with information without biasing the individual. So in many cases, people go and say, "I have this. Do you like it?" I'm being a little bit naive here, but that's basically what a lot of people do. Do you like my baby? That's why I'm interviewing you, and that is not very helpful because you're showing the product. You're saying, "Do you need this?" So that all the conversation just goes about the product, and maybe you get feedback on the color or the size, things like that. However, we guide you through the process of understanding what the customer goes through. So what are the things that you're doing on a daily basis? How does this problem appear in that? So it's a way to gather information by talking to people that is sensitive to how to go about doing it. Now, if you know how to do that already, then you don't need this. Are there any restrictions on citizenship? That's a very good question. In fact, I think I have a slide. Oh, I have two more slides that I didn't show, so let me go back to that. Okay, so if you're a foreign student, there's no restrictions. If you can study at Penn, then you can do this program. We don't require anything else. You don't need special permission. Your visa works for this. It is a non-for-credit activity, like if you were to do a project for school. So there's absolutely no restriction. And what I forgot to talk about is the time commitment. So overall, the estimate is it takes about 30 hours over 4 or 5 weeks. And the way it's broken down is there's 8 hours for session attendance. There is 1 hour for office hours. There's 1 hour for video preparations to read it, and then there's about 20 hours spent to get the interviews, conduct them, and analyze. So you have to be prepared to be able to put that in. So it's about 6 hours per week. Some weeks it might be 10 hours, some weeks it might be 0 hours. So it depends how you position yourself. If there are any other questions, I wanted to show you 2 videos. Well, at the end of the program, we ask our teams to put together a 1-minute video on what they learned through the program. So I'm gonna show you 2 such videos. You should be seeing a screen with a woman in it. It's a YouTube. Okay, let me show you this first. And I hope the sound goes through.
Urogeny. Our tagline is Uroflowmetry Streamlined. Basically, 2 of us are pediatric urologists at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and we have a business partner, Roman. So our product is essentially a way to measure urinary flow rates in a way that is an innovation on the current techniques and methods. We'll get through that a little bit as we go, but currently there are several limitations, and so our device, by integrating into the electronic medical record and delivering uroflows in real time, has potential benefits both to be used in the home as well as in the office.
Good. So you can see there, CHOP pediatric urologists. They didn't explain why this is needed, because they know what is needed, but they needed a way to measure urine flow that was more effective than the current standard. They went through our program. They talked to a bunch of pediatric urologists and urologists in general, and then they actually got an SBIR grant after that. So that's one example. The other example is, so this is a company that came out of ICO. I don't want to take credit for everything that happens here. Every company that is successful goes through my program and 20 other programs. So we are just one little cog in the whole thing. So they are a product testing platform, which means you're developing a new product, you want to test the market for it. How do you do that? This is how they started.
Products for feedback. Showcase is a network of vending machines that are a platform for brands to exchange products for feedback. So what that means for users is you walk up to the machine and you can get anything you want for free as long as you give a quick survey on the item. And for brands, that gives you really targeted in-the-moment feedback that reaches an unreachable consumer.
So they came up with this idea right when the pandemic hit. And the idea of having a vending machine that gives you stuff for free in exchange for filling out a survey obviously did not work because that was not possible. So they pivoted. They changed to this program where now they send you a box to your house for free of stuff, and you just review it and you get to keep it. And they're actually doing pretty well with that. And this is the current website of that company. It was a Wharton MBA student who worked with that. Yes, I think this is it. This is all I had to share. I want to encourage you, if you are interested in joining this time, put in your application. We have, I think, already about 15 applications, so it's a competitive process. And if you don't have an idea, but you want to jump in to work with a potential team that needs people, you should apply as well, because we're doing the matching right now. Okay, any questions? Last minute questions? No. Excellent. So you have Sammy's information.